today we are going down the innovation route, and Dr. Tony Omonsa is the CEO of Kenya National Innovation Agency, also shortly known as Kenya. You know, when foreigners come here, Daktari, they call us Kenya, yeah? And your agency is synonymous with that. But for starters, first of all, your recent engagement has been the much publicized, the Kenya Innovation Week, just 2-3 weeks ago. First of all, was it a success from your perspective, and what emerged from that particular week?
Thanks very much for having me here. You know, that Kenya thing, sometimes people will say, I'm the CEO of Kenya. And I say, no, I'm not the head of state.
That's
and
true.
I have to try and explain. But anyway, come to the Kenya Innovation Week, which we held between the 27th of November and the 1st of December. Absolute success, beyond even some of my imaginations. But it's a function of spending time to reflect and think through value proposition of hosting such a forum. Because in itself, it's a means to something. And we had a Commonwealth edition. So there were participants from all countries of the Commonwealth. We had the leadership of the Commonwealth, the head of state in Kenya, and there were a range of ministers from the Commonwealth countries, including non-Commonwealth, like the US and Japan were there. Lots and lots of exhibitors, innovations, and then we had ministerial roundtables on science, technology, and innovation, and on how to amplify it in the region. We launched our 10-year innovation master plan, which gives a sense of direction of where we want to go. By any standards, absolute success.
Absolute success,
Yes.
indeed. So when you talk about innovation, especially on a country scale, it seems to be one of those words that we use in very different contexts.
Yeah.
Fashion, there is innovation there.
Yeah.
Agriculture, innovation. So the mandate of Kenya, where does it lie? What are you responsible for?
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. I mean, innovation is used in many ways, and there is nothing wrong with that. Because the simplest way of defining innovation is to say it's change that is going to add value. So if I can improve things in terms of efficiency, in terms of speed, in terms of cutting costs, and making them more consumable, I'm innovating. I'm adding value and making something move from what it was to what it can be or could possibly be. That's fine in that regard. But as an innovation agency, our mandate is to develop the national system of innovation to catalyze creation of jobs and wealth. All right? Now, an innovation, and that's largely in the context of knowledge economy. Knowledge economy is about, okay, can I conduct some research? Can I investigate something and come up with new possibilities? And we call that technology, not ICT. New technologies. And then that technology should translate to job creation and should translate to wealth and therefore improvement of society.
Okay.
So that's the context which we come from. Now, it's a system, meaning that there are various components in there. And the components could be like the education system. It's crucial in the way we develop our creative minds, and then how we come up with ideas, the research that must happen. Ideas must be developed, and these ideas must be protected. Now you see I start thinking about intellectual property issues there, right? I think about policy. How are we going to fund these ideas? How do we incubate these ideas? And how do we ensure that they thrive and become sustainable? That value chain is a system.
Okay.
And that system means the components must function well, and the interaction between the components must also function well. Those are two elements.
Okay.
And our measure of success is how many jobs are you going to create and how much wealth.
Now, let's start from the foundational issues,
Yep.
the mind and how we process innovation.
Yes.
I understand CBC is one of the systems that are, curriculums that is very engaging, very innovative from definition. We are seeing parents and kids doing very interesting stuff together. From where you sit as Kenyan, what has been your intervention at the education level, especially in lower education, primary level, and high school level?
Great. Actually, a little moment we'll talk about the 10-year innovation master plan that we just put in place. And the head of state actually launched it on the 27th of November. It has about 5 pillars that basically shape what we're going to be doing. The first one is the emphasis about human capital development. Ideas are going to come from people. And those people must be wired to generate ideas and to nurture those ideas. So in that space of human capital development, fundamental skills of creativity, all right, collaboration, thinking globally, critical thinking, problem solving, and so on and so forth. Those are inherent elements for an innovative ecosystem. Because you want to churn out many ideas, and not just the ideas, but good quality ideas. So it's both volume and quality. And that's a function of how you build the people's minds. Education to us is the development of the mind. It's not about getting a grade, it's about the development of the mind. And that's why during the kickoff of the CBC, we've been the greatest champions of that model, because it's about competencies. It's not about the grade. It's not about rank. It's about, do I develop as much potential as there can be in a person? Then they can generate more ideas, and then the process of now those nurturing ideas proceed. Now, human capital development, if you look at some of the countries that have really succeeded, Finland being an example on the education system. I mean, look at Singapore, look at the UK, look at Israel, for example. The emphasis around the development of the mind, all right? And the potential that there is in this person. And we are all unique. We are not like the same script. So that is emphasized a lot. And building on that is intellectual property appreciation by the learners. That when you come up with something, you can actually protect it, and you can nurture it, and you can make wealth out of it. And so our support as an innovation agency is from the basic levels of education all the way to the highest level of education, including policy making. You also need the mindset for policy making that is futuristic and is innovative in nature. So human capital development, we cut across from the basics to the highest level.
That's quite interesting. One of the areas when we look those countries that you've mentioned that are very ahead when it comes to innovation and are very intentional about that, is the issue of research. Because, as much as you can develop an ecosystem, as you've rightly put it, bottom up, if we're to go with the theme of the day, but there is an element of funding this research. And for the longest time, there's been that issue about funds for research, especially in our higher learning institutions. Is it still a challenge? And is Kenya playing a role towards eradicating this funding of research issue?
Also, you're right. It's, research has to be funded. And research is a component of that knowledge economy, because you're using some little money and you're converting problems into some knowledge. That's research, really. You're coming up with knowledge. And then now we'll go into the commercialization, where knowledge is now being converted into business opportunities. That's a different discussion. But in terms of funding the research, which must happen, there is basic research, there is applied research, and so on and so forth. So the government created the National Research Fund, which is supporting the funding of the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem. But at the same time, we can't just measure the funding that goes to the National Research Fund as the only pool of funding research. There are many universities here that receive a lot of funding from partners, from private sector, so on and so forth. There are research centers that receive money directly from the Exchequer, that's the National Treasury, as well as other partners. It's just that cumulatively, we are not here where we wanted to be. The aspirations when we put together the Science Technology Act is that we would utilize about 2% of our GDP on research. It's estimated now that we're somewhere around 0.8 going to 1%. And the head of state actually pronounced himself very boldly during the Innovation Week of the aspirations to move from that 0.8 to 2% of our GDP. Because there are countries that have gone way up to 5% of the GDP, and it reflects on the kind of outputs that we get.
Yes.
So what I would say is that we are on the track. We have appreciated, all right? We've created the systems and the institutions for that purpose. But the resources haven't got to the point we wanted to be, but I think we're on track. And the leadership also aspires to get there. So it's just a matter of time, and then we would be at the numbers that we're desiring to have.
All right. So I know you've hinted and given us sort of an overview framework of the 10-year innovation master plan for the country. A lot of Kenyans are asking, okay, it's about human capital development. How am I individual? How can I participate in this master plan? Is it something that is devolved to an individual and
Yes.
sort of accountability at a personal
Yes.
level?
Yes. So absolutely. The pillars that make the 10-year master plan, one is the human capital development. The second one is access to finance. Now you just talked about, because you're going to need money to commercialize stuff. So access to funds, access to markets. All right, we're going to try and strengthen this as much as possible. And then the fourth one is around infrastructure that then enables you to work through those ideas and so on and so forth. And finally is the policy atmosphere. Now you're asking this context of individuals. From our standpoint, we look at interventions at national level, we have interventions at institutional level, and we have interventions at individual level. Because it's going to take individuals to work through stuff, all right? Generate ideas and nurture those ideas up. But these individuals work in the context of institutions. So if the institution doesn't become supportive, and in this case I could refer to a TVET, I could talk about a university, I could talk about an innovation hub, an incubation center, and so forth. And then there is national. By national, I'm talking about policy issues like, you know, the startup bill, the IP policy, document like the 10-year master plan, which are more yardstick and guiding. So to answer your question, I come back to the individual. So as an individual, there are very many levels of involvement. First of all is we are building capacity of individuals. So one of the proposals, we've got projects across each of those 5 pillars that I just mentioned. So under the context of human capital development is that you must build your own capacity to appreciate intellectual property rights and the commercialization of the same. That's a classic example, and there can be very many. So in the plan, we've got specific initiatives, and we're engaging specific people. So in the education system, and the human capital development, we've got several programs working with various partners, including FCDO, British Council, which are not local, including local institutions, the Commission of University Education, you know, TVET Authority, and so on and so forth. These are engagements that are going to continue. Capacity development, everybody gets involved in appreciating the skills needed. Come to commercialization. We've got programs like research to commercialization. These target researchers and individuals who are coming up with new ideas. And we've got a support program, and we've already hosted a number of cohorts to work up their value chain of improving the quality of the outputs to become more and more commercially viable. We've got programs about exposing you to the markets. So let's say you've generated this output. How do you access market better? How do you build your enterprises better? How do you become globally competitive? You know, it's very easy to create a solution that competes in Muranga and serves the people in Muranga, nothing personal about Muranga. But as an individual, you've got a role to play across all of them. Maybe policy, it means that people get involved in the formulation of policy. But when it comes to participation in the infrastructure, in the incubation center, one of the aspirations we have in the master plan is to have a center of excellence in every county. If I go to Taita Taveta, there's a lot of strength and minerals. That's not the same thing as Kisumu. But Kisumu, there is a lake. Okay, so can we have a center of excellence that revolves around the lake? Or if there is, can we improve it so that it's more globally competitive as part of the Innovation Master Plan? And the role of an individual is to participate in these infrastructural resources to develop their ideas further.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought in or roped in the idea of devolution. Different counties, different strengths.
Yes.
Can we capitalize on that? Yeah. First of all, with the engagement of these devolved units, is there that hunger? That is one. And are they laying foundation at the county level to make it easier, even as you oversee the national master plan? Yeah. It's easier to devolve into these units.
Yeah. Well, as the county system was created, it probably wasn't very intentional that there must be innovation components or programs or centers within the county system, but the leadership embraces. We've talked to a number of county governors and they embrace, and I can list Machakos County or Makueni or Kisumu, for example. We've had discussions in Nairobi. For example, Nairobi has set up, there is someone specifically directly responsible for startups and more of the knowledge economy space, and they're thinking through how do we improve the incubation facilities in the county and so forth. So there are counties, Makueni, for example, has an innovation hub. Machakos County, the governor actually was in Nairobi for Makueni County, specifically engaging on how might I improve my innovation ecosystem. In Mombasa, we run the Pwani Innovation Week, for example, that caters the regional aspect of the coastal. We have a North Rift Innovation Forum. So there are initiatives that have come through. They may have not been regionally conceptualized, but I think they're shaping up. And one of the things we have in our 10-year master plan is that every county must have an innovation strategy. Because, unless you're intentional about something, and where you want to be at a certain function of time, then you can end up anywhere. Yes. Either you end up very fast, or by accident you get there, or you never move. Exactly. All right? So what we would like to do is that it starts with the plan, because you're rallying everyone. It needs to have a localized and contextualized policy and strategy. Definitely. And we think that by the time halfway through this, almost all counties will have a specific strategy, and we will be supporting that on its implementation.
I know, and even to encourage these counties as we come to a close, there is that element of course, dependence, the issues that we've been seeing, delay, disbursement to the counties, and counties being encouraged to sort of go on strong on their on-source revenue bit to be able to fund some of this program. Regards to that value proposition, that innovation could be the route to achieving this. Is it something that they're buying?
Yeah. At that policy level, at the institutional level, I'll give an example of our innovation agency. We didn't start with a lot of money. But, we've built partnerships, we've created value proposition that other people have been willing to make contributions into. We're able to raise funds here and there. So similarly, even at the county level, there are a lot of resources. I mean, some of the counties here are the size of Singapore. From a population-wise, if you look at Israel, if you look at Finland, we're talking about 6 to 10 million people. There are counties that are approaching that number, all right? And they've got the resources. I mean, you may ask yourself what resources were in Israel. Or really, they don't have, it's like a desert kind of thing, like if you go to Singapore, it was nothing. But when you think about the human capital that you have, the people you have, and then the infrastructural resources, natural resources that you have, you already have a foundation. Now, if you have a clear target and strategy of building the capacity of people to exploit the resources that you already have, and then link with the rest of the counties and link with the rest of the countries, you can build a lot more. And we can generate a lot of more money using the systems that we already have. The question is the clarity of the vision and how bold and ambitious it is. If you look at Dubai, I mean, oil, at least they've got oil, so that gives them some advantage. But there are countries that didn't have. And the answer lies in how visionary will the leadership be. And our role as an innovation agency then is to support the thinking from a strategy standpoint to optimize the utilization of the resources, human capital being one of them, and then exploit what we already have for the greater good.
Definitely. We've been having a lot of talks around people seeking opportunities outside the country, and people hold different views to this, because if you ask a Kenyan who's jobless, why don't I go and get an opportunity in a different country and be able to work? Your goal as an agency, overall, bottom line, is to create jobs. When this discussion about global north facing shortages and the global south standing an opportunity to fill this gap, where does Kenya and innovation as a whole fit into that discussion?
So, every country looks at what is that you have a strength in. And the way we look at this master plan is to say there are certain pillars you must put in place. Once you get these pillars, we start gravitating more and more, where is my strength? What can I do better than anybody else in the world? And the moment we arrive at those scenarios, then you compete on the basis of your strength. And then you say, there are certain things I don't do. I don't do those things because somebody else will do better. I'll optimize what I do. I mean, China's will tell you, we are into manufacturing. So it is easier to manufacture something in China than to do it in Nairobi, for obvious reasons. So our role is to help the country to think over time how to optimize what we have and operate on our strength and compete in the knowledge economy. Kenyans are known to be what? Smart workers, hard workers. I mean, everywhere you go, South Africa, you meet in Botswana, I hear it all the time. So that's a strength, all right? And as we sort out our fundamentals, I tell you, no Kenyan would want to leave this country. I had the head of state speak during the diaspora conference, and he said, we're going to change this country. In 10 years, you will come back and you will be surprised. You will not recognize this country. And I strongly believe that. You don't need more than 10 years to actually make an amazing country. It's sort out your fundamentals, and we articulate these fundamentals on the master plan, and then build on that based on our strengths.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Tony Omwansa, CEO of Kenya, and he says he's not the CEO of Kenya, all right? So don't get it mixed up. He says that we sort out our fundamentals, and 10 years, trust you me, within that time frame we'll be able to have turned this country around. But innovation is the current and the future of turning this nation around. Thank you very much for being with us. That's where we put a full stop on Business Today. I'm Nokit Kumboy. Up next we have Ndio KTN. Stay tuned. Thank you.